All right.
With that.
I will call to order the regular meeting for the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District. We will please start with the join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you call the roll for us, please?
Sure. Blodgett. Here. Ruata. Here. Beechman.
Here.
Garrett. Here. Henders.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Smith. Here.
Great. Comments from audience? Seeing none, we will move to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes minutes and expenditures, and that's it. We've got a short consent agenda this month. We have a motion and a voice vote for this, right?
You do.
Thank you.
I move.
Roll call.
Roll call, yeah, sorry.
Okay, I move to whatever consent agenda.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Blodgett. Aye. Ruata. Aye. Beechman.
Aye.
Garrett. Aye. Henders.
Aye.
McKenzie.
Aye.
Smith. Aye.
Thank you. And the agenda is a voice vote, right?
It is.
Thank you. Can I have a motion then to approve tonight's agenda? Thank you, Diane.
Anybody gonna second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll move right into financial reports. Joe, it's all you.
Actually, no real comments on this one, unless there's some questions.
Okay. Everybody get a chance to look at it? Yes. Does anybody have any questions for Joe? All right. Thanks, Joe. President's report, I have nothing to add. We do have some communication stuff in here, but George will present that to us. You don't have anything else to add? Are we going to talk about our meeting that we had? Or do I have that on here? We going to do some feedback on that?
Oh, the community meetings?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll get down here.
Okay. Then I don't have anything to add. All right, item 9, good news or comments from the board. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? Okay.
I'll just mention real quickly, the public discourse lately has focused a lot on preparedness for active shooter situations, and I just wanted to commend everybody who's worked on that for the library, that we have something like that in place. The run, hide, fight training was really useful. So I'm glad that we're ahead of the game on that.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. Correspondence and communication. There's a letter in here from Literacy Volunteers of Fox Valley. That's for the Trivia Bee, which is coming up on, I believe it's March 24th. Is that it?
It is.
It is, yeah. So the library sponsors a team for that. There's, how many teams? Probably 30 teams there?
At least.
And it's kind of fun. The Rotary Club does one. I've helped out with that. It's the library does one. Did the library win last year?
We did?
Yeah, I thought it. So they have
Pay him to say that.
some pretty sharp folks around here. So the Trivia Bee, it's if there's anybody out there that wants to get involved with it, it's a great opportunity. And you just put a team together, and it's run through the Literacy Volunteers of Fox Valley. So look those folks up and get involved. Let's see the other items in here. We have a nice note from Pat.
Pat Montana, our home delivery
Oh, this is right. Okay.
assistant who retired. And she addressed it to her department head Stacy and the board and the management team for her. She was thanking us for the recognition that she had.
She did a wonderful job from all accounts.
She did.
She'll be missed.
Absolutely.
A nice photo of a couple trustees helping out with the coding program. Thank you all for doing that. So,
And Rich.
is in there too.
Yeah, Rich is in the background.
I'm the guy in the back with his fingers up to his nose.
Sandwich or something.
So every Monday in March, the library hosts coding classes for children. So what age group is that?
3rd grade through 6th grade.
Okay.
And the one in March is like 4 weeks in a row, so they kind of learn more than
Okay.
the single shot hour of code.
And is that, when is that? Is that on weekends or school day?
It's Mondays from 4:30 to 5:30.
Okay.
So it's after school, gives them time to get home and have a snack.
So next one will start March 5th.
March 5th is when the next one
Excellent.
starts.
Do you have to register for that?
Yes. It's a maximum of 8.
And we have started registration already.
Excellent.
Oh, okay.
Good. Okay. So that's nice to see that in the newspaper. That was in the King County Chronicle on February 15th. All right, that's, I think, all we have for correspondence and communications, unless I'm missing something, George. Okay. So we have directors and librarians reports.
In the written report, you mentioned that we got 277 people at the Pachacachon night last week at Fermi, and Fermi just is, they're willing for us to be there once a year in February, and the staff there just seemed very excited to have the
That's
event
great.
there. And it was very enthusiastic, very engaged and enthusiastic audience last time, so it was a lot of fun. I mentioned last month one of our managers is retiring at the end of March, and that's Michelle Marcel. We have another manager who is retiring in the middle of April, Pam Weber, who's been here for just about 12 years.
Okay.
And we'll miss her very much. But the time has come for her to step down, and she's done a great job for us over the years. And we have a third retirement, a longtime facilities assistant, Mike Morrissey, is leaving at the end of April. So 3 of our longer-term employees, Michelle will have completed 20 years when
Wow.
she steps down, so we wish them all the best. And,
Yeah.
we're starting interviews this week, tomorrow for Michelle's position, and we'll have that filled by the end of next week, and then we'll launch right into the process for Pam.
Okay.
So, hoping to have a little bit of overlap so that we can have some of the legacy continue, some training and things like that.
Sure. How many resumes or how many applicants did you get for Michelle's job?
We had about 10 to 12, I think.
Wow, that's great.
It's
Okay.
a specialized position, so
Yeah.
we're pleased. And some folks out of the library field, and some folks out of journalism and marketing and communications. Some good
Excellent.
resumes.
Looking forward to having another great person on the staff. All right.
So we have before our regular reports, we have a special guest with us tonight, Carrie Halter, who's our technical services manager, and she's also. Anyway, Carrie's in fact our primary contact person for the library, and she and Pam, as we've mentioned previously in committee meetings, they've devoted tremendous amounts of time to helping the transition be smooth for us. And Carrie has a more detailed update than I probably could give you. So, Carrie.
Thank you. Well, we're kind of in the thick of it right now, so I thought it was a good time to let you know a little bit about what's happening with the migration. I want to start out with some numbers. After the migration, there'll be a total of 97 libraries. It was 78 SWAN libraries right now, plus the new 19 is what they're calling us, from Lincoln Magic. There will be a total of over 1.2 million patrons. There will be over 8.6 million items in the database, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the bigger consortiums in the country. So, a big change for us, going from 9 libraries to 97. So, I just want to point out some of the benefits, too, of what's happening with this. One is some area libraries. North Aurora, Elburn, Sugar Grove will all be in the consortium now. They'll no longer be reciprocal borrowers, so they won't have to renew their cards every year. They'll just be one of us, which will make things easier for them. One of our biggest reciprocal borrowers is Aurora. They're still going to be standalone, so that won't change. But some of the other libraries up and down the river will all be in the same group now. The Batavia students that have North Aurora cards will also be easier for them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can just come in, they don't have to have their cards checked or anything like that. Also, patrons will be able to place more of their own holds online now without having to ask for interlibrary loan. With over 8 million items, there's a lot more that people can get and can place their own holds for in that large of a consortium. One of the other differences is the online catalog. It's still the same. We both use Circe. It's called the Enterprise Catalog, but it's going to look a little different because of the way Swan sets up their catalog as opposed to the way we've done ours. If you look at holdings, Batavia will be listed first, but then if you click to see more holdings, all the libraries will be listed. So you can see Batavia only or possibly 96 more libraries. Obviously, most aren't going to own 96 libraries aren't going to own everything the same. Batavia is one of the larger libraries. I think we're number 5 in total items out of those 97 libraries. So there's a lot of things we're going to own that maybe 4 or 5 other libraries. St. Charles is bigger, Oak Park, Downers Grove, but we're right up there. So there's a lot of tiny libraries in Swan. Something else that's going to be different, the item types and locations. If you're used to looking at the online catalog, some of those will change. We had to adapt to Swan's vocabulary. So some of those words will change, but of course we're not moving anything. It's just the vocabulary is going to be a little different. So patrons will need to get used to that a little bit. With the timeline, our go-live date is May 1st. For 2 weeks prior to that, from April 18th to May 1st, technical services will be frozen. We will not be able to order, we will not be able to catalog anything, and we will not be able to make any changes, even typos in the catalog. We are completely done for 2 weeks because they have to do the whole migration, the data download. Acquisitions will be a little slow after the go-live date because we're going to have to check and make sure all those vendor connections are working for our online ordering. We have a lot of item types and locations to learn. We have new vocabulary that we have to figure out what's going on. Circulation is going to be frozen. Well, not frozen, but they're going to have a limited amount of things they can do for 3 days. It's April 28th to the 30th. They can check out, but they can't check in. So people can take things out, but as they bring them in, we will not be able to check them in. We've already set up this room to hold things.
I was going to say, where are you going to put it all?
Well, that's the problem. So we will have special due dates that are extended because of the freeze. So maybe people will come in and check out a lot, so then they will all be here. And again, CERC also has a lot of new procedures to learn, new user categories and things like that. So everybody's going to have some things that have to be figured out. One of the things I have to give kudos to Stacy. She came up with an idea of how to circulate some of the popular titles that are going to be released during our freeze date. Because we can't add those to the system, but we've come up with a plan to get some of those things out. There's a new James Patterson that will be out those 2 weeks, a John Sanford. Those are pretty big authors. I shared this idea with the Swan group. They thought it was brilliant, and they asked us to share our list, and they're going to do it. So kudos to Stacy and Astrid who helped her with that. It's going to be very helpful. A couple other things. I don't know how many of you use ShoutBomb. That is going away. ShoutBomb is, you can get online texts to renew things. That's going away. That's not something Swan uses, but Swan offers text messaging. They offer emails. They offer automated phone calls, and even snail mail, if that's what you still need. So there are a lot of options, but if any of you are ShoutBomb fans, that is going to go away. We are in the midst of data testing right now. We are looking at the link database and the Swan test database. We are comparing back and forth to make sure our information in the first data load actually went the way it was supposed to. We have found one item type that did not transfer correctly. I've already told them that. I found a second one where I could go in and fix it myself. So when the new migration happens, it'll be taken care of. But we're in the midst of that. They want us to spend at least an hour a week. And I have 5 people in tech that are working on that. There's CERT people and 1 adult services staff too, just checking to make sure all the data looks like it's supposed to. And we are also going to a lot of classes. On Thursday, we'll go to my 3rd class in 2 weeks. But SWAN is doing a great job. They're almost killing us with the information. They're giving us so much to absorb. But they're doing a great job. And they're making it very reassuring that it's going to be different, but it's going to be the same too, and that we can handle it all. So far, so good. If I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to, but so far, yes.
Could you just give an example? You mentioned that the vocabulary is changing, the
Mhm.
types of locations, something that patrons will have to get used to. Can you just give an example?
The locations, for example, instead of saying, like biography, it might say biography adult,
Oh, okay.
because
All right.
that's what they do.
Able to be.
Some of the material types you're used to seeing, like nonfiction or fiction, they use book. So a lot of things will be book that are in adult biography. But again, we try to keep them as close as we could, but SWAN they have set themselves up differently than we did. One thing I might mention is the statistics you see on my monthly cataloging report may be a little different because these item types and locations are changing so much, and I have to figure out how to get the numbers you're used to seeing in the new SWAN way of doing things. So it may take me a month or 2 to get it looking like it should, but
It's a good time to mention that the circulation statistics will likely change quite dramatically for the same reason. So we probably will not be able to provide, at least initially, the same level of detail that we have been providing historically because of that.
we're going to try. I tried to create the item types and locations in order to be able to do that, but we'll see if it really worked or not. We'll know in that June board report whether it worked or not. So, is there anything else I can?
Yeah, so, we probably have the same issue now, but so we automatically renew books here.
Yes.
What if do all the libraries in SWAN automatically renew books?
I don't know if they do now, but there will be auto renewal.
No, it's
In the new.
available, but not every library takes advantage of it.
So how does that work if we borrow a book from here that's coming from another library, and they don't have auto renewal, so it just comes, it automatically comes back, just like a just like
See, you're
before,
asking me
before we had that.
circulation questions.
I know the answer.
Oh, good.
So it's just like we used to have before.
Because it works the same way now. When a book comes to us from another library through the consortium, our circulation rules control the due date and the renewals. So if a book comes from a library that does not have automatic renewal, it'll be checked out at Batavia and will be automatically renewed because it was checked out at Batavia.
Okay, so we're able to take advantage of that.
Mhm.
And what if we check out a book now that's coming from a library that's interlibrary loan, and then all of a sudden they're in SWAN too, and then you switch over? I guess that's just, when it gets turned in, it just gets turned in, so there's nothing. You got an answer to that
Oh,
one?
good.
An answer for that.
We actually, beginning this month, are no longer, we're attempting not to borrow things from small libraries or magic libraries.
Okay.
Any library that's in what's going to be the new SWAN consortium.
Right.
So that we don't have this issue of multiple records and losing the checkout data.
Right.
On that item, because the owning library's record will override anything else.
Ah,
So if we say we're to borrow from Park, bring it in and check it out to you.
right.
Oak Park's information would carry over, but your checkout would not.
Aha.
So we are filling requests from outside of those 97.
Wow, okay, so you have to go a little farther afield for some of
Going a
those.
little bit further afield. Sometimes it's just to the northwest suburbs.
Okay.
Or a little bit to the west.
Aurora's not gonna be in it, so.
Correct. And then there are the standalone libraries we can drop on as well. At this point, it hasn't affected our ability to pull.
To pull requests,
We're
okay.
just have to do a little more creative.
Excellent, all right, so a little more, it's not automatic necessarily, no. Or it won't be, it is gonna be a little more thought.
We have to run it through a quick test.
Okay.
Before the library considers the request.
Okay, excellent. All right. Did you have anything?
I've
Got two questions. Given the fact that we'll now have access to, we said 8.6 million assets, long-term, does that open up changes in strategy around collections as to what types of new titles that the Batavia Public Library wants to accumulate versus others in the consortium? And then two, long-term, does that suggest a potential change from the 12% of the budget dedicated to collections to a different amount, and you shift some of the resources to more programs? So since we're going to have access to a wider pool of books, is there an opportunity to consider how you go about developing strategy for the collections, and then at a broader scale, the percentage of revenue go to collections versus maybe an increase in program?
The state standard has existed for a number of years in spite of larger consortia like SWAN existing. So I'm not sure that we'll certainly, and I'll defer to Stacy in a moment here, our collection, our selection patterns may vary somewhat, but big bestsellers, sort of the top tier group of authors, most libraries will continue to acquire a certain number of copies because the demand is so high amongst the whole group. Because don't forget, there's 1.2 million patrons, so we're still talking about there. It's hard to say whether we'll have much of an opportunity to shift just because of the kind of demand that we're getting, and plus our circulation here is very high. We'll certainly draw on those other libraries to a much greater extent than we ever have before, because I think the opportunity to find things will be much greater. Now, the first part of that question, I guess I should defer to you, Stacy.
I feel like we've had a little bit of a laboratory to experiment with this to some extent. At the point where some of the libraries began to check out their new nonfiction books among the consortium, which didn't used to happen. The thing that I noticed in terms of the amount of spending that we were doing and the number of specific Batavia patron requests that we were filling for new nonfiction books. Previously, if there were a new release that was nonfiction and it maybe was a really narrow scope, but we got a request from a Batavia patron, as long as we ran it through the test of does it fit our collection parameters, we would order it. And then in some cases it would sit on the shelf and maybe two people would ever check it out again, and it wasn't a real, didn't have a big impact. At this point, with a lot of those books, we don't even get the request anymore. It used to be that the person would be blocked, they couldn't request it within the consortium, so that would push it to the librarians to consider it for purchase. At this point, that number in nonfiction is way down, because if it's a new book that one of the other libraries happen to select, it's going to go and it's going to come in and fill our patrons' request. We don't even necessarily know about that. Similarly, if we buy something that no other library in the consortium has bought, and a few people check it out here, it's going to get a little more activity around the consortium as the new nonfiction is moving. So I think that's the long introduction to. I think that we're going to see a little bit of movement there, but I don't know if it's going to be huge. I think that if there are libraries that will want new fiction, and there are
in SWAN that do not restrict their new fiction.
That could have a similar little ripple effect, and there might be a novel that we wouldn't necessarily have to purchase. It also, at this point, we try to be very completist about our series. I think we're going to continue to do that, but if we can only buy an out-of-print book, it's going to cost us $50, as opposed to the actual usual price. Maybe we'll choose not to fill that simply because it's bookstores that are available within the consortium to get it pretty quickly.
Kind of piggybacking on that,
from the flip side, if we are one of the top 5 largest of the 97, are we going to see where our Batavia patrons might not get access to books because they're being checked out by other in the consortium?
Polls placed by Batavia patrons get filled by Batavia's materials first. Yeah.
Okay.
So it
Because I
might
can
not-
see
it
us
might not be
going
on
the other way,
shelf.
where we won't be
Yeah.
able to reduce our collection, but we're buying collections for the 96 other smaller ones.
Yeah, and that one parameter actually precludes a lot of that.
Okay.
So it might not be on the shelf when you go to get it, but as
But
soon
our
as it comes
hold
in.
will
So
come
the hold will
first.
come
If you
first.
place a hold and you're 10th on the list, you'll get it first if it's our book.
And there's no other Batavia patron.
Right.
Right.
I'm sorry, yes.
Batavia-
10th on the list being first Batavia.
Right.
Well, I think the white paper they did for us, we were either 4 or 5 in circulation and 4 or 5 in items held, but 10th in budget. So we're doing a lot of work for the amount of money we have. So that says a lot about us, I think, and our collection.
As we continue to add to the collection, I mean, as you said, parameters might change a little bit, but your primary focus, right, is still on let's get what the Batavia patrons want. And if there's somebody else out there that wants it, that's great, but your focus is still on what do our patrons want, and let's get what they want. And then if we don't have it, let's fill it from outside, and if somebody else wants to borrow it because we have it, that's great, and that's what allows us to work with it.
Yeah, in a broad sense, I think, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In a broad sense, I think that our existing materials budget, how we spend the money, I envision shifting more so than us needing to spend less, because the number of items, both print and digital, or the publication rate is not slowing down. And I can see over time, I think we've seen some shifting in what we spend in reference, for example. I think we'll see more shifting as we have done in the last decade towards downloadable materials, and we never used to have video games, for example, so we saw a major shift toward that technology and things. So it's a matter of keeping our fingers on the pulse of what the demands are and how best to fill them. Did I?
One of the other things, just in terms of communication plan, we've already attended a class about how to make sure that we get the reports that we currently do, using some different software that keeps delivering the same information, so that when we have X number of holds of Batavia patrons on an item, we get a report that tells us how many holds, how many copies we own, and we make sure that that hold ratio, that we're keeping up with demand. So at some point, for digital formats, that will instigate our ordering another copy. And so that'll still going to be a different mechanism to deliver that information, but we're still going to get that same information, just in a different report that actually now we can customize in some really print space as well. So that's going to help us to stay on top of the demand that we have.
Any other questions or comments? Well,
Thank you.
It's a big
Thank you.
change,
Thank you,
looking forward to
Karen.
it. Yeah, thank you. All right, hi.
Good evening. Just a few things this evening. We are finishing up on our last week of Winter Library Club, so families can still come in and finish that up. Right now, we have about 141 families participating, so that is great. But it's a pretty easy club, so families who still want to participate can still can get quite a bit done over the weekend. I'm sending a few pictures around for some of the activities we've been having this summer. Our Mario Kart tournament, and we had Chinese New Year celebration on Friday. So there have been a lot of great things going on. And it does Winter Library Club ends next Wednesday on the 28th. We've had quite a few big events this winter too, and you saw some of them on that page, and I'm going to send the other one around our Science and Art Fair. Once again, we had over 300 people here that day in participating in a variety of activities. 7 different organizations came, and museums and groups came. And I will have to tell you that probably, I mentioned in my board report, the frog lady. If you were here that day, she was down in the youth services department and she had a chocked full group of people around here. I don't know if Kate, did you?
My kids were here.
Yes.
They touched things.
Novel
and exciting, yes.
Yes.
Great time.
She had a lot of very novel, interesting things that day, and it was cute. Even adults were taking pictures with the animals, so it was a very cute thing. We do have one more. Our last winter library club event is Saturday. This coming Saturday. Mark Hayward's family comedy show. He does juggling, yo-yos. It's a lot of fun. So that kind of wraps up our winter library club. Adults had such a fabulous idea a couple of years ago, their tournament of books, that this year YS is doing a little tournament of books as well. But we are doing a tournament of picture books. So librarian Carol Maddock has designed our little tournament books. I'm going to send this around, and you can see what the books are going to be voting against. And if you want to take a little brochure, we're going to let children vote. And one of the things that Carol really worked hard to do were obviously to pick books that we own, which will be able to check out. We have copies that families, since they are picture books, that they can just read in the library. When they come in, they could just read a quick one or read two of them to vote for. And they're all on our downloadable databases, either Tumble Books or BookFlix. So we thought that was another great way to show some of those and highlight some of those databases that otherwise people just don't really often think about. So that we've thought we would do a little tournament of books ourselves and see how that goes. And we're going to have a little voting booth set up so kids will be able to come in and vote during the month of March. I also want to mention our middle school mystery night this year. It's going to be on March 9th for students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm mentioning it again this year. We've done middle school mystery night for years, and a number of years ago we switched to a live clue game where students participate in small groups playing Clue, going around the library to different locations. And this, we've been using the last few years the Lightning Thief characters from the Rick Riordan series. This year we're changing it up, and they're Harry Potter characters and locations. So we're very excited. Amanda Vanderwerth and Amy Hong have been working on our new characters and locations, so that's coming up on March 9th. And I wanted to finish up today with something that's not in the report, and we recently, Born to Read, recently topped 400 families who have received book bags with early literacy books on. We've actually given out to date today 404 families have received those bags. So we're very excited about that. The committee, I just emailed the committee too because it just happened, and I know they're really excited to know that we've broken that 400 book bag mark. So, any questions? Otherwise, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joanne. Hi, Stacy.
Got a few things. Can I send these down?
Mm-hmm.
A couple updates. We're in One Book, One Batavia season. It's underway. We had our book discussion last week, and a few events coming up. Sunday, March 4th, Oba William King Storyteller, and another story program, Stories and Songs of African People, Sunday, March 11th. Those are both at 2 o'clock. And on Monday, March 5th at 7 in the evening, William and the Windmill, which is a documentary film about the author of the book that we've chosen this year, and some of what happened after the book was published. It's a fascinating film. So we'll be showing that on March 5th. Joanne had mentioned the Tournament of Books, and one of the handouts that's going around is our bracket, along with descriptions of all of the books. This is the brainchild of Laura James, who's been following the Tournament of Books that's done by I think it's the Morning News. There's an online publication that's been doing this for a number of years. This is our homegrown Batavia version with books that have been suggested by either patrons or library staff members, and then narrowed down to 16.
So voting starts on March 5th, and it can be done on Facebook, on the library's Facebook page, or here in the library. We'll be accepting votes back near the reference desk. And finally, the other flyer that's going around is about Preservation Week 2018. This is a new initiative that we're celebrating. It's being led by the folks at the Batavia Depot Museum in collaboration with a number of other organizations in town. And I just want to call out the library event that's taking place. Roseanne Freund, who puts together our Questions and Ancestors, our Q&A genealogy program series, has put together a program, Preserving Family Heirlooms, that's going to take place on Monday, April 23rd here at the library as part of this series that's going on in several locations all around town. So we're pleased to be part of that and really glad to have that partnership with the folks at the Batavia Depot Museum. Any questions? All right. Thanks.
There's a distinct bear theme on all the books. I know
Yes.
several on both lists, there's bear books.
They make for a good book, especially in the winter.
Yeah. Okay. Committee and official representative reports. We have the committee engagement.
Okay. We had our first community engagement session on February 1st, and the presentation from that session is available on our community engagement page on our website. Jim Dillenberg, former director of BATV, who also does videography as a profession, filmed it, and he used the audio track and the slides from my presentation to put them side by side. It looks pretty good, I think. And so that's available, and we've gotten some positive feedback from that. We had a small but rather engaged group, I think, that night to participate in the activities, and the feedback from that, the verbatim reports, Joanne has been working with Jenna Engler of Unicom Art to review, I think, the data in that. Unicom Arc is just completing an executive summary for presentation at tomorrow night's facilitating team meeting. So we'll make that available to you on the board and to the community on the website as soon as that's available. Tomorrow night is our 7th facilitating team meeting. Lynn Elam, who is the speaker for Community Engagement Session 2, will be doing a practice run, a rehearsal of her presentation on basically focusing on the future of libraries. And she's got Joanne and one of the co-chairs, Dana Russo, and I met with her to discuss sort of the parameters of that. I'm really excited about what she has to say. I think her presentation will be required viewing probably for all of us once it's done. And that presentation will be March 1st.
March 1st, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Also a Thursday, I'm afraid. So
Yes.
So Joanne, you.
I would just double down on what you said about Lynn's presentation coming up March 1st. Sitting in with George and Danny Russo, our co-chair, and listening to Lynn speak was just invigorating. And she's a consultant in the library area, so she knows quite a lot. She is very much up to speed on trends going forward with libraries.
Many of which you will never, ever have heard of.
No, you never have, but they're very interesting. And I just am encouraging anyone who's out there listening to come to the next engagement. Again, it's March 1st. The only other thing I would say is make sure you come to the Main Street entrance of the high school. Some people last time came to the Wilson Street entrance and were not able to get in. So make sure you come around there. It's 7 o'clock. 7 to 9. I was very impressed with the amount of engagement that the people who did attend our first session. They were very interested. I think we got some good input. People stayed beyond the end time. They were continuing to talk about things, so I found that to be, very positive. Again, like George said, I think the numbers did not meet our expectations, so we really would like, again, to encourage people to come. We need to hear about what the library can do for the community today, but again, given that the focus of the next talk is the future, we need to know what we're going to be doing in the future. So,
Do you think that the numbers were so much lower because of the Wilson Street issue?
well, that was part of it. I think, it was an extremely cold night.
Yes.
It was just that bitter
The
cold.
Wilson Street people
yeah.
actually came around the building.
Oh, they did, okay.
So, again, I'm just hoping to encourage people to come and hear Lynn. It'll be a really good presentation.
Well, I saw the sign up here. Have you gotten any feedback, like from the front desk or anything about interest in it?
Well, we've been pushing it, and there are some folks that I think that are interested, and many of the people that are there because some of us on the facilitating team or on the staff, or others actually did a personal invite, and that's always a powerful thing. So I encourage everyone to do that with your friends and neighbors. And for those that missed the first session, we have gotten some feedback since then. Some of it as simple as, I really enjoyed the presentation that's on the website. Some more substantive even than that. So please, feel free to view the presentation and provide feedback via email or telephone call or whatever.
I think too, the circulation desk is putting one of these bookmarks in every book that's being checked out. Those of us on the facilitating team, as George says, we have been told to personally invite at least 10 people and then ask those 10 people to invite their friends. So I'm hoping to spread the word there. Our two co-chairs went to the city council and made a presentation at the city council for the last one. So we have been getting the word out.
Quite a bit on social media.
Quite a bit on social
We sent a
media. If you're on
digital-
Facebook, you should be seeing.
We sent a digital postcard to some 14,000.
You sent those. I sent another to 70 households that are in the Friends of the Library. So one thing that, and again, I'm going to speak to the community, is we'd like to reach people who are non-library users. And we'd like to get those people in and tell us what it is we can do to support your needs. So hopefully you'll come.
I know in January, Mike asked about efforts that we're making to draw in the input from people who can't make it to these meetings. What steps have we taken in that regard?
Well, the marketing is much broader than the library audience, so that's part of it. And we have, the feedback we've gotten, and the people that came to the meeting, we asked for some demographic and how do you experience the library, or are you not a library user? So we've got some data there. It is challenging, to hit that audience, but we're casting a very wide net. We're not focusing on, do you have a library card? We're focusing on, do you live in the district? And but our marketing has been very broad-based. We're not, we don't have lists of people who don't have library cards. We have lists of people who do have library cards. So, but by casting a very wide net outside the library, we had good coverage again in social media, also in the newspapers, and in neighbors, and which goes to all the households. So we're hoping that, even folks that aren't regular users or non-users of the library will be intrigued enough to maybe see what's going on. We're not controversial, unlike some recent projects in Batavia, and the lack of controversy probably causes. And someone actually said this in an email. Why do you want me to come to a meeting? It's like.
Just because.
I mean, seriously, if you want my opinion, I'm happy to give it to you. But is there something I should know about? Kind of a thing. And I think that's, in a way that our success in some ways may work against attracting people to meetings like this, because we're not fomenting any kind of controversy.
It's not throwing people into
Right.
a liar, try
Right.
fixing it.
So our message to
They don't
the
have any
community
complaints.
is, we still want to hear from you.
That's
Because-
right.
Because the times are always changing, and we want to know more about what you would like. And some of the email feedback has actually been very thoughtful, so I'm hoping we get more of that, even if people can't come in.
And I think what Kate was getting at is how do people who weren't able to attend make sure that they're able to provide input to the group. And I think that the fact that all of the presentations are going to be on the website.
Good.
And it's extremely well done. It's not just like a video of George speaking, it's,
Thank goodness.
it's a really, no, George did an amazing job of giving an in-depth, overview of the library and the breadth of the services and the things that the library does for the community. I think that even the people who were there who are, used to, now these are library people, they were educated. They were educated in that, I didn't know that, so, and that was half of our goal, was to get out there and educate the community and then get their input there. Getting back to Kate's question, though, I think maybe what we should do is, in addition to just maybe and we can bring this up at the next meeting, in addition to having the video there, also, maybe have a form there.
We do, and we provide the email address there.
And a form that they can fill out.
I don't know if we have a form there.
Just
yet.
make it easy,
Yeah. The email address is engage@bataviapubliclibrary.org. And so we have gotten some use of that, so we could certainly.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of asking very pointed questions. I haven't seen the video, so I don't know how long it is, and I don't know how then realistic it is to expect people to
20 minutes?
sit and watch a
25, yeah.
full presentation.
What is it?
25 minutes.
25?
25 on the nose.
But if it's
I
just
guess
a
it-
blanket, give me your feedback, probably not as specific as we can be.
We have specific questions that we ask the groups, and as I say, I don't know if those are on the site yet, but we can certainly ensure that they are. Because the activities actually have thought-provoking, somewhat leading questions that we want to hear. Those are the kind of questions we want to put on the website.
Sure.
The questions were things like, given George's presentation, what makes you proud? Okay. Given George's presentation, what were you surprised about? And given George's presentation, what are you concerned about? So it kind of, it didn't get into specific areas,
Yeah.
to ask them about.
And so that, packaging that up, obviously that can be part of the regular e-newsletter that the library sends out, but could also be packaged up into the what's going on in Batavia email that I get from Main Street or from the city.
For the city hall updates.
On Batavia's, the library's Facebook page, link directly to the video and those these pointed questions.
And some of that is, I don't think we have taken advantage after the fact, after the presentation of the cities, for example, email blast, but that's something I can ask Michelle.
I think so that'd be a good opportunity to say, this was our last presentation. If you get a chance, please look at it, answer some questions about the presentation and what your thoughts are, and our next one is on this date. Please attend that. We'd love to have you.
we do have another major electronic push already planned that's going to incorporate some of that.
Okay, sure.
In the theory that people have to see things several times before they really.
You have to open the emails and read them, so, yeah.
That's part of it.
Well, that's-
It's nice too to have the videos, like, this is the sort of thing you're getting yourself into. There's a 25-minute, sampling of, I think it's intimidating for people to walk into a forum where they have no idea what to expect and what's being asked of them. So this hopefully will cushion that
Sure.
transition a little bit.
Seeing the last one and kind of getting an idea what the next one might be more like. Yeah.
We're actually, I believe this session 2 will have 3 short presentations focused on 3 different aspects of future trends in libraries. One focusing on collections, one focusing on programs and that sort of thing, and then with an activity attached to each one. So we're trying to change it up, to provide a different approach and different attention span type.
So instead of like the 30-minute presentation
Right.
and the hour-long
Discussion.
discussion at the tables, it'll be a 10-minute presentation and then maybe a 20-minute activity, 10, 20, 10, 20.
I was surprised because we had a relative group of strangers, so the people that showed up did not all know one another. And after we adjourned, it was a good 30, 40 minutes, I
And
think,
people
before
were still
people
hanging
actually
out.
got up to start to leave. It was
That's
sort
great.
of an interesting phenomenon, which we don't often see nowadays. People actually liking to continue talking about this topic with their friends and neighbors and new friends. So, anyway, if you're available on March 1st, certainly trustees are welcome to participate.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so that's the community engagement discussion. The facilities, finance, outreach services, and Batavia Public Library Foundation did not meet this month. That takes us down to the Friends of the Batavia Public Library. Joanne?
Well, I was out of town for that meeting, so Rich was kind enough to attend for me and.
There were actually 2 meetings. One was the annual meeting, which is much a social event, I guess, at the end of the year. A relatively short business portion of it. The current board, all the members were reelected for the new year, and took the opportunity to encourage members of Friends and friends of Friends to attend the community engagements in the future. The other meeting was the regular meeting of the Friends, which the latest book sale total I found out from Diane, from Joanne, who was able to get it to separately. The latest book sale, Saturday book sale, was $1,029, and at that meeting, a number of small items that were brought up. One of the items specifically dealt with the potential design of the Bulldog, which is going to be a joint effort between the Friends and the Foundation. It was discussed at that point. I had heard a little bit of things about it since then. Do you have any updates, George, on where you think that stands at this point?
Well, both board presidents began an electronic straw poll and feedback forum on the design options. And I don't feel like we have like a definitive final answer, which I think the Friends poll ended up being tied. There was one particular question. Everything was settled except for one question, and the Friends board straw poll apparently ended up tied. So the foundation, I have not heard the final results from that straw poll, so we'll know soon. But the artist has been delivered a bulldog, so he's ready to begin as soon as he gets the final. As soon as he gets the final, that's right. So, an interesting process all the way around.
Sure.
29 Bulldogs, this is an aside to that question, 29 Bulldogs were sold / sponsored for this summer, 3 of which are 44 inches tall, and the rest of which are 30 inches tall. And in addition to that, there are another 10 17-inch dogs that have been fostered by various local businesses that will be residing in those businesses around town over the summer. So it'll be quite a colorful downtown. And several are on our block, both on Wilson and a couple of them on Batavia Avenue. And so we'll have some resident bulldogs outside.
Any other questions?
I should mention, although the foundation did not meet, they did conduct an electronic poll, which they'll ratify the results of at their March meeting. But the foundation board agreed to fund this summer's American Red Cross babysitting workshops, 3 sessions again.
Oh, great.
They've done this for several years, and this is the time of year that Joanne has to firm up the commitment with the people that actually provide the workshops. So we're pleased that the foundation board approved funding for those 3 sessions.
I believe you said those are always well attended.
I think they're full.
Well, yeah, typically, yeah.
There's what,
Yeah.
10 children per session?
We do 3 classes, so 30 new babysitters every summer.
Excellent.
There's a waiting list, I think, sometimes for this.
Sometimes.
Excellent, okay. Link, do you want to talk about that, or do you want to save that till item 13?
Oh, most of what Link is all about is Swan, and we had a lengthy discussion.
Yes,
about
okay.
Swan. So the only thing we really covered last time was budget and Swan, so I guess I'm happy to defer it.
Okay. BATV, Rich?
Yeah, just a couple of things at the meeting. Money was allocated for some very needed computer upgrades that were associated, that were needed by the BATV. And a lot of time was spent talking about a variety of shows that are being run essentially in some cases by students themselves. There's a show called It's News, which is basically local news, which is actually put on by a sophomore in high school, and apparently does an excellent job, and then she occasionally attends those BATV meetings also. There's also the Municipal Minute and the Batavia Spotlight were two other ones that they kind of focused in as being particular to the community and a value of the community. So that was basically it for BATV.
All right, thanks. So while the rest of us slackers had no other committee meetings, you were very busy.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, Rich. All right, that is the committee reports. Item 13 is budget for Link.
You have in your packet the proposed budget, the final budget for the Library Integrated Network Consortium, the fiscal year of which begins May 1st. And so all the different member library boards are acting upon this last month and this month. And then those of us that are representatives on the board will take your direction and do a final vote at the March board meeting of Link. And it's actually a pretty simple budget. We have stopped contributing revenue to Link the member libraries have. So as you see on the tentative budget, it's showing 0 all the way down the list because we're no longer contributing money to that. We have sufficient assets, do not need to contribute any money to Link, because we've got a very short time frame left. The expenditures on the second page really reflect the fact that we have almost no employees at this point, and we're beginning to transfer out all of the various expenditures that Link has taken on over the years. Certain things the individual libraries will pick up, and we're beginning to, shut down the office, which was nearly shut down. And most of our expenses are going to be having 2 audits, one for the fiscal year and then one for the final dissolution. A contingency for legal fees as we work through some of that paperwork. And we do have the consulting line. We do have one of the surviving employees in Lake, now that Carol has moved to Michigan, is a consultant who's assisting with technical issues for us in our final few months. So the board of directors and its president, who is Don Bussey at the Glen Ellen Public Library, really are handling, for the most part, what needs to be handled. And I will say that Don Bussey is doing a fantastic job as the board president, keeping us all informed, keeping in touch with what's going on our behalf with Rails and so on. So as you can see, it's a rather minimalistic budget, and the Link board has reviewed this on a couple occasions and felt comfortable recommending it to each of our library boards. So it's here for you to act upon. I'll answer any questions if you have.
Does anybody have any questions for George? Let's close out of this.
So at the end of October 2018, Link is done. It's dissolved.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
We do have, there's one little asset that is tied up, which deals with IMET, which is an investment pool in Illinois that had some legal difficulties. And so there's some funds that are, that we expect to get back from IMET. And so as part of the dissolution papers, we are, will designate the Bloomingdale Public Library as the fiscal agent for the no longer existing Link, and that library will receive those funds and then distribute whatever comes in based on the equity formula that is built into our bylaws. So by doing that, we can completely dissolve the organization, and the assets, certain assets that we need to retain will end up in various places. Some at Glen Ellen, some at Bloomingdale, some at St. Charles, in terms of official records that we can't actually dispose of legally for some years and things like that.
What about the physical items, or like copy machines and desks and all that stuff? Does that go on the surplus?
Actually, that's most of that's already gone. Yeah, there was a surplus property that was created. And
Okay, like we do here when we have things that we don't need anymore, we send out for.
Yes, this Link was created by intergovernmental agreement of its member libraries, and is technically not subject to certain state laws, but as an organization has always chosen to comply with things like surplus property, Open Meetings Act, things like that. So
Sure.
just to keep everything like in the light of doing it.
Okay.
So the fact that this projected budget is 115,000, it's significantly in red, is not of concern?
No, because our total assets are
Yeah, the development fund.
the development fund.
It's not listed here,
Yeah.
but I was
Okay.
assuming that there is money in the development
There's,
fund.
yeah,
That's what it
there's
says, I
like, there's
just-
like over $900,000.
So then what else happens with that, and it gets distributed out based on?
Upon final dissolution, we have built in the percentage of equity shares for each library, and each library will get its percentage upon dissolution. And when it comes time for us to discuss our budget for next year, one of the items that we'll actually have to discuss, that Joe and I have talked about a bit, is we we don't know exactly how much money, but we're pretty sure it's going to be six figures at this point, at least low six figures. And so obviously, the obvious thing to do with it is to actually put it into our surplus, or our special reserve fund for capital projects. But we'll also see if there are things that we have been deferring for some reason, we'll evaluate some of that and have that discussion with this board and get your input on what should happen. So we're gonna, you know, it's
That's a big note to have.
it's a very positive,
Yeah.
very positive. Nick has been very fiscally responsible and to some extent conservative over its 25-year history, and so it's a good way to end up.
Yeah. Okay. So we need a voice vote to approve this, is that?
It's, well, it relates to financial issues, so usually we do a roll call for financial issues.
Okay, that's fine, let's do it that way then. So I need a motion to, I guess we approve it, or?
Yeah, to approve the, you're essentially giving me direction, but I think that in the past, the vote has been to approve the proposed budget for Link.
Can I have a motion to approve the proposed budget for Link? Thanks, Rich.
A second.
Thanks.
Blodgett,
Aye.
Kulada,
Aye.
Beechman,
Aye.
Garrett,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
McKenzie,
Aye.
Smith, aye.
Thank you.
It was moved by Rich and seconded by David.
Yes. Okay, the only other thing I have on here is the future agenda items, which we have a report.
Well, there's one thing I should mention for this. We typically each year will have the technology plan in February or March.
Okay.
This year, actually, and working through this with Ross, for a variety of reasons, one of which were involving Webbit into the review of this process.
Okay.
And Ross is doing a very nice job really reorganizing and refreshing the whole plan. So we won't have it for the technology committee in March, we will have it in April.
Okay.
But March will be devoted to the bids for the parking lot,
Parking
so
lot.
there'll be no dearth of things for the committee to talk about.
Okay. So we'll probably have committee meetings next. Okay.
We will need to have a couple committee meetings.
Excellent, okay. All right, does anybody have anything else? Then I need a motion to adjourn. Mike?
Second.
Thanks, Jenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.